Welcome to the Keeping It Simple with Ferlon podcast, interview edition. Today we have Mr. Steven Goard, the best voice actor in the world,
Oh, here you
with
go.
us today.
Don't do.
How's it
I
going,
appreciate
Steven?
I'm good, man. I appreciate you having me. I appreciate you having me.
No, I appreciate you being here, man. It's funny, really quickly, I want to say like Steven contacted me like late 2022, and he's the reason why I have done several on-camera commercials because you had contacted me about I don't know if you remember, but you contacted
Yeah,
me about like your agent sending you an on-camera audition. He was asking me
yeah,
about lighting and stuff.
yeah,
And
yeah.
after that, I was like, I got an audition in my email for a Ram commercial. And I was like, maybe I should, hop on it, And I was
Yeah.
like, I hope it didn't expire yet. And I looked, and it didn't. And man, I auditioned for that. It was the first on-camera audition I auditioned for, and
Wow,
and I got it. I
my
was like,
man.
man, had that guy not reached out to me, I was like, I would have never done it, man. So it was perfect timing, man. I was like,
I
thank you,
love it.
Lord.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. That's what's up, man. Well, congratulations on that. Most
Oh,
definitely.
appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. You're the reason, man. I owe you some money.
No, the love, man. That's all. That's it. That's it. I'll take that. That's cool. But that's what's up, man. But again, yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate you, brother.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, man. So Stephen, man, tell us about yourself. I mean, I know it's a general question, but who are you? Where did you come from?
Oh gosh.
How did you get into voice actor?
All right. Well, let me just. I'll start. Steven Goard. I've been out here in Atlanta since '98. Man, it's crazy. Every time I say that, the time just starts flooding back with how long I've been out here. But yeah, originally from Chicago. Came
Mhm.
out here in '98 in pursuit of music. And I was a rapper, producer, all that good stuff. And being behind the
Nice.
microphones kind of always been my love, man. So I kind of parlayed that into, my voice acting career. I just love acting. I love performing. And this is a great way to kind of segue from being a young rapper, because, 46 is a little different when you ain't necessarily been established as an artist. I mean, I still get down, don't get me wrong, but yeah, so it's a great way to kind of just stay in the booth, man, because I love it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's my history. I was a childhood stage actor.
Oh, wow.
Performed in a lot of plays around Chicago. I was
Hmm.
with a company called In Good Company. They did a lot of shows, local shows, but it gave me a lot of exposure to being on stage,
Hmm.
to be in front of a crowd and performing. And I think that really set the stage for the whole rapping and performing on stage. Is that aspect of my life kind of took shape in my high school years. But yeah,
Nice.
I enjoyed being a childhood actor on stage and
Hmm.
honing those chops. I've done everything from being a mouse to a king, and it's been quite the journey, man. But those were kind of the seeds that were sown early on.
No, absolutely, man. That's pretty cool. So it seems like the path you've taken, it makes sense that you're in the voice acting world now, childhood actor to rapper, I mean to everything. That's pretty cool, man. So you always been kind of behind the microphone or in front of
Yeah,
the
yeah,
crowd?
yeah. In some
Yeah.
way, shape, or form, I have been behind the mic, behind the boards. One of the other things that kind of helped being a producer was always being kind of at the forefront of the technologies that were used to record.
Hmm.
Everything from, I used a Digi 001, which is
Hmm.
an interface that is Pro Tools, but it was one of the
Okay.
first versions of Pro Tools before they had the more blown out versions of Pro Tools that they have now. And that really set the stage for being able to kind of move quickly when it came to editing auditions,
Oh yeah.
recording them, having familiarity with the studio setup.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm very grateful for that background, and I also kind of have always been a little bit of a creative. And so even while I was rapping and producing, I was still working a full-time 9 to 5, and I was a graphic
Hmm.
designer and a web developer. So anything creative, man. When I can create, that's kind of my happy place. So that's pretty much how it all kind of evolved into where we are now with the voice acting.
No, awesome, man. And you are creative. I mean, what you just said, anything creative like you like to be
Yeah,
involved in.
that's my
If
happy
I could,
place.
is that
Creativity, is my happy place, man.
and I see it, man. Well, shoot, I wanted to ask you. I guess I can go to that, but I wanted to say you need to give us So go ahead and rap for us since you said you still
Oh,
got it.
here you
I'm just
go.
messing for.
You ain't gonna do that. No, no, not right now. You're throwing an instrumental, and I got you. I got you. But
You don't want to be like that guy. I don't know if you ever seen that clip when it was like a news segment, and the guy he was just saying how good he was at rapping,
oh
and
yeah,
he
yeah,
wanted to
yeah.
give a
I saw it
freestyle
right with
and
the
he
beat. He
froze up.
sat there for like,
Yeah. Yeah,
oh,
that would be
that's funny.
something.
That's funny. That's funny.
So,
Yeah.
so can you take us through like what is a typical day in the life of Steven, like in your voice acting? Like what do you do? Yeah, when I guess yeah, what is the day like? In the voice acting life.
Um, well, honestly, from the beginning of the day after I get up, drop the kids off, I'm usually in the booth somewhere between 9 and 9:30, either
Mhm.
finishing up some auditions from the night before, because I usually try to knock out any auditions I get that day, that night.
Mhm.
So I don't have to wake up in the morning and do it, because you're dealing with everything from morning voice, which can be advantageous depending on the type of spot. But
Okay, okay.
I got to do one of them happy spots, and the ones that require a little bit less gruff in the voice. I try to get those knocked out the day before. But yeah, I usually start off knocking out
So,
some auditions that I didn't get done the night before.
mhm,
Seeing what's in the inbox, from any emails I've sent out to client prospects, and
mhm,
going through any opportunities I have to kind of do any follow-ups, or just kind of tightening up some last minute business things, looking at invoices I might need to send out, things like that. And
mhm.
I'll usually do that until about maybe 10:30. But typically I'll let clients know I'm usually available between 10 and 6. I try to schedule all my sessions sometime between that little hour. I mean, that window of hours. And
Mhm.
you know, that may or may not work out, because sometimes clients need things past 6 p.m. You do
Yeah.
what's necessary to make sure you're satisfying everybody. But and that's generally it, man. I mean, obviously, if I have sessions throughout the day, I try to, schedule those when it's literally not some other family kind of event that I have going on. And
Yeah.
um, being a voice actor affords me the opportunity to be home with my kids,
Yeah.
when they're home, if they're sick.
Mhm.
Like, for example, today, my youngest daughter actually is running a fever. So
Oh,
she's
really?
home from camp. Yeah. But, my wife works from home as well. So, we tag team, and,
Yeah.
make it work, man. So, but yeah, that's generally what the day looks like. I've got,
Mhm.
session. Uh, okay. So 3 p.m. See, I just had an email coming today, so I've got
Okay.
one.
Nice.
ESPN. I have a possibility for an ESPN spot that I was trying to record for the Hall of Fame game coming up. So it looks like they wanted to.
Okay.
So I got a session today at 3 p.m. That's
Nice.
kind
Look
of.
at you showing off, man. Showing off.
I'm grateful. I'm grateful, man.
No, man, that's really cool, dude. But oh no, okay, I didn't want to cut you off.
No. That's really it, man. So it's pretty much day in, day out. It's the grind of being in the booth, that
Mhm.
hot box back there, and doing what I can to keep the momentum and the rhythm going, man. It's pretty much pretty routine. So I follow the same thing primarily every day.
No, awesome, man. Awesome. Like, how often would you say? I mean, how many sessions would you say like per day do you, if you had to put an average on it that you usually book or usually have to do?
Uh, whew, a day. I won't necessarily say a day, but I say within a week. I usually have
Mhm.
anywhere from 2 to 3 sessions in a week.
Okay. Okay.
It just kind of depends on the week and what leads I have out there. What auditions I'm waiting to hear back from. But on slow weeks, maybe two. Maybe one. But
Mhm.
for the most part, on average, it's somewhere between 2 to 3. And
Okay.
then on one of those weeks where it's bananas, it's it can be 4,
Yeah.
possibly 5. Some are quick, some are a little bit longer. It also kind of
Yeah.
depends on the project. Some of the promo stuff is pretty quick. I love promo in that normally, I can get in there and knock it out in about 15, 20 minutes, 30
Yeah.
tops, depending on how long. Because I think I had one thing I did for NHL.
Mhm.
And man, I had like 3 pages of
Oh wow.
everything between tags and short, spots, because I ended up narrating a lot of the teasers and little in betweens that they'll play between the games and stuff like that. So yeah, that was
Mhm.
a pretty interesting one. That one took us about an hour and a half. But in
Okay.
general,
Okay.
yeah, we try to keep it pretty within the time frame that we're booked for. So it's always an interesting experience. I'm always open, man, because you just never
Yeah,
know
yeah.
how it's going to turn out. You know, you expect to go, you get long scripts, you expect those to take longer. You get those knocked out in 20. You get a
Mhm.
2-line script, and it takes 3 hours to get it done because
Yeah, go
you know
figure.
you just never really. That kind of reminds me. This is one of the clients that I did a spot for. Is funny because it was Mike's Hard Lemonade. That's one
Mhm,
of the ones that stands out in my mind because I literally had 2 lines. Well, there were 3 spots, so to
mhm,
speak, but 2 of the 3 spots was just 1 line,
mhm.
and we were literally in session for about 2.5, almost 3 hours.
Oh,
And it's
wow.
so funny because like I walked out of the session like I told my wife like I don't think I ever want to say lemonade again. Like
Oh, see, I'm
drink
sure it's
lemonade or it's like I just don't want to see lemonade for a while. But
yeah.
it was funny, yeah. But you know, you stay in there until you get it right, until the client is happy. They're happy. They actually ended up picking up another kind of set of spots from the same one they're going to be doing lifts from. So I didn't even have to go in the studio. So
Oh, nice.
we're happy, you know, which is the goal. No
Yeah.
matter how long it takes, you got to make sure you do them, you know, to the spec and as best as you can. See, they walk away and they want to come back. That's always my goal, man. Return clients. I kind of hang my
Oh,
hat on,
yeah.
you know, wanting to keep people happy, the creatives, and just making it a very collaborative process. So they always want to come back and work with you, man.
No, absolutely, man. And I know you mentioned NHL, ESPN. Like, are you booking those through agents? Is this
Yeah.
some going after? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And
A lot of the stuff that I've done for the NBA actually I ended up finding on my own. Initially
mhm,
started working with them
nice.
through a pay-to-play platform, and then they just continued to come back. And so we've done, you know, several spots. Most of the majority of the ESPN stuff has been through my agency CESD, which,
Okay.
you know, shout out to CESD. I love those guys.
Nice.
Yes,
You little
absolutely. I love them, man. I love them. My New York agency is the bomb. Like I have all the love in the world for them, man. And I really do consider them family because they look
Yeah,
out.
that's nice, man.
Yeah, it's a blessing, you know, because I know there's so many different ways agency situations can turn out. There've been a lot of agencies that have folded this year, you know,
Mhm, mhm.
and you know it's definitely something that I have a lot of gratitude for, you know.
Oh, awesome, man. And you were CESD with in New York and LA? Or
Yeah,
was
I
okay.
work with both divisions,
Okay.
mostly New York, just because of the way that the auditions work. But I do audition with LA as well. You know, so it's you know I've booked with both. I love both
Mhm.
divisions, CESD overall. But I originally signed with the New York division, so that's who
Okay.
kind of my first love, so to speak,
Mhm, yeah. No,
came through the
absolutely.
New York division. Yeah.
No, absolutely. How how many agents do you have if you're able to share that?
Oh, let's see. So I've got okay. So there's main agencies. I've got maybe 3 that I work through,
Mhm.
and then I've got some regionals that I'm with. So I'd say overall probably maybe about 10, 11.
10, 11 agencies? No,
Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, that
yeah,
makes me feel good. Okay, because
yeah, yeah.
I was wondering if I was starting to go too far
No,
with
no,
the ones
no.
I
I
picked
mean,
up. Okay.
yeah, it's I think the thing is, and you'll hear different people say different things. You know, you
Yeah.
really have to find your own path. I think in this industry, you take the best of what you learn from some of the more seasoned professionals, even some of the younger guys who are just getting in, still have insights to offer.
Yeah.
Um, but you know, the truth, in my humble opinion, you know, you really have to carve your own niche in this industry. There's no one way to get to where you're trying to go. I think it's just being clear on what it is that you want. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And
Yeah.
that'll make the path towards what it is you're trying to establish a lot easier. So, you know, for some, having fewer agencies works. And then for others, you know, I know some people have maybe 15, 20, you know,
Oh, wow. Okay.
it just really depends. You know what I mean? And I'm very transparent with my agency. So I try to
Mhm.
make sure that I communicate with them, even if I'm with another agency, you know, my agency in New York has exclusivity as far as to anything New York. Even if I get
Mhm.
it from somebody else, I always make sure that I go through them. You know, I'm
Mhm.
a huge person with loyalty. As far
Absolutely.
as somebody's giving you a shot, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So that's pretty much how it goes. But I'll say maybe about 10, 11. You know, between all
Mhm.
the regionals, and I've got some kind of like ancillary agencies that I'll work with who'll just send me stuff randomly.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, it's all about taking swings, man. You know, the more
Mhm.
swings you have, the more opportunities you have to hit it out the park. So
No, absolutely. No, it's funny. I think I have about 6 or 7 now, and I was thinking like, is this going to make me what was the word? Well, unattractive to some of the bigger agencies when I'm trying to go after them, and it's like, but I don't know, that encourages me. So it's like,
Oh, you know,
eh,
again, I think it really just depends. You know what I mean? You want to know a lot about the agencies you're trying to go with,
okay,
and where your representation is can often have a big deal of influence on if an agency does want to work with you. You know, because if
hmm
you're getting stuff already from a market who's a competitor, you know,
yeah,
I had an actual decision I had to make. You know, my Chicago agency, I've been with them for about 2 years. You know, I signed with them maybe actually almost 3 years now. I signed with them a few months after I signed with CESD.
hmm
And you know, I truly love my Chicago agency. It's a Big Mouth Talent in
hmm
Chicago.
okay,
But this recent year, you know, I had an opportunity where I was looking at some regional representation. Another agency came up. Now, they aren't as necessarily as big as Big Mouth, but
hmm
they have a few other regional places that they went with. So I kind of had to make a decision. You know, it was just like, okay, they were interested in signing me. Um, I actually booked one of my largest accounts through Big Mouth, which was the Starry Soda contract.
Oh, dude, that's nice. Yeah,
Yeah,
we got to talk about that. Don't let me
yeah,
forget
I'm very, very grateful for them
that.
for that. But yeah, man. So, you know, I kind of sat down, I talked to my wife and, you know, just weighed the pros and cons. And sometimes, you
hmm
know, what looks new and shiny
hmm
is not always going to be, you know, the best route for you. Sometimes where you are, you find the opportunities where you are and
Okay.
make the most of those as opposed to always thinking that something new is going to be better than where you are. Um,
hmm
you know, so I took some time and I slept on it and I woke up and I had the answer and I decided to stay and it's been a great decision. I'll say that.
Yeah. No,
it's
absolutely.
yeah, it's been a great decision.
And you're referring to staying with Big Mouth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, and it's you brought up Starry. I mean, I forgot about that one, but I've seen your spots, and it's just like, man, Steven, you the man. So it's like, and who was your character with Starry Soda?
So I'm Lim.
This story is mad good.
Thanks, boo.
Ice Spice?
Wait, who's that?
It's my ex, lemon lime soda.
You're looking well.
I just needed something more refreshing, more crisp. I'm with Starry now.
This is intense.
So how long are you Lim? Are you Lim forever? Are you? This
That's
is
that's the hope, man. You know, you can only do your best. There's so at this point, I'm pretty much the voice of Lim. You know, they haven't gone with anybody else. Myself and there's another actor named Jason Lanieri, I believe, and he
okay.
plays Lime. Um,
hmm
yeah, and so we're the same characters. You know, I know when they initially started running the campaign, you know, they were looking for the voices of Lim and Lime, and for the people who do it to remain that voice. And so as of
Yeah,
right now, that is absolutely still the case. And you know, my hope is that that goes on for a while. You know, I was
that's
told
so
my
awesome, man.
and if they try to make me dress up in a lemon outfit, I don't know. I'll, I'll still have to find a way to, you know, make that work. But you know, it's been one of the funnest projects I've done since I've been voice acting, man. And
Nice, man.
yeah, very grateful for the account. You know, all the creatives are always funny and fun to work
Yeah.
with, and the writing is hilarious. It's hilarious. So yeah.
And how did that come about? I know you said it's through Big Mouth, but
Mhm.
can you kind of take us? Can you kind of take us through that process of how you
Yeah,
became
man.
Lim?
I mean, it was literally just an audition, but I had to do it maybe 3 times, you know. So especially for the first spot, you know, they were really trying to get a feel for the actors and their ability to improv and play off of one another and see that and hear that synergy.
hmm
So yeah, I auditioned for it. They did a callback for it. Then we did a table read before the actual spots recorded. And then yeah, once we got the approval that you know everybody loved the energy, we all walked away. I promise you, I probably have never laughed so hard in a session than that very first Starry session. But yeah, once we went through all of those, yeah, it was just time to rock. So you know they essentially we recorded the very first spot and they were fairly short, you know. There
hmm
was maybe like 2 or 3 we did, um and then we had the, you know, they're an official sponsor of the NBA, so
Oh wow.
the playoffs and stuff that came up, and then we actually got to do a really cool thing, which is kind of the live acting of Lim and Lime. So when people would call in, they get to talk
Oh.
to Lime. So we were literally sitting watching the game, and they would have people, if they see something on the screen, it was a specific thing, they had them call in. Then you get to
hmm
talk to Lim or Lime, and you win prizes, and we would have to tell them what they won. It's really
Nice.
cool, man. Yeah, little stuff like that. This always makes the job interesting. But yeah, it's definitely been wonderful, man. I've really enjoyed the time that I've played Lime, and I
Mhm.
just look forward to continuing the playtime, man. That's what I call it. It's playtime, you know.
Yeah. No, it definitely is, man. You having fun playing? So,
But that's how that went.
I'm sorry.
No, I said
Oh, you
that's
said.
pretty much how it went. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, absolutely, man. And I know you just named we named some of your successes, but can you take us through some of your biggest successes in the voiceover industry?
Oh gosh. Some of the biggest ones. I mean,
Mhm.
they're all big to me, man. I know that sounds real cliche. I'm grateful to be working, brother. I can't even lie to you. It's some that do stick out though, just because they were so different. I know playing King the Conqueror on
Mhm.
the Australian Disney cruise line was definitely a highlight, when he was, in the forefront of the kind of Marvel thing going on. It was cool to see. I got a chance to see it on the screen. And the funny thing is, I voiced it, but there was an actual actor who was playing on the big screen. And so it was a huge
Oh, okay.
production on this boat. I mean, on the ships. And they
Mhm.
have actors who mouth the words, and but my particular part only showed up on the screen. And
Okay.
so you got to see me animated as a character of Kang, and the fireworks and stuff went off. It was pretty incredible, just being able to kind of witness and then hear the people's reactions as they were watching it. uh,
Mhm.
I've got an opportunity to voice some documentaries, which are really cool. One of the most recent,
Nice.
actually, I did Shark Week for Discovery Channel. I got to narrate one of their episodes, and that was really, really cool. Um, but yeah,
That's
man,
awesome, man.
so many opportunities. I've recently been working on a lot of Georgia Power spots, and I think they're trying to
Mhm.
kind of bring me on as maybe the voice of Georgia Power. Um,
Nice.
that's been some incredible spots. Those actually just started playing during the Olympics.
Mhm.
Um, Oh gosh, just going through. I've had a plethora of stuff I've done. I had one that I did for Meta. They were actually on my vision board.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
that was
Very
that was a
nice.
real cool one. And then I got to do a really cool one that it didn't necessarily get to be like widely played, but it was actually played. I don't know if you ever heard of the Sphere that's in Las Vegas, where it's just like this
Mhm.
huge. So if you think IMAX on steroids, this is exactly what it is. It's
Okay.
like 20,000 square foot arena with speakers and screens that pretty much line the whole thing. It's got about
Mhm.
16,000 speakers in it, and it really is a visual and auditory experience. It's so different from anything. I'm speaking as if I've been there. I've only seen the videos from it, but
Uh-huh.
I voiced a really cool kind of keynote, a pre-keynote visual for
Oh,
uh,
nice.
HP, and it played
Okay.
at the Sphere, and it was like, I got to get my Morgan Freeman on, and just he kind of lives rent free in my head anyway. But
Uh-huh.
one of those things that when you really get to storytell. And you get to play, and the creatives just was like, man, just we loved your audition. We popped it in, and it's tough because sometimes you have to literally beat your own auditions because they'll
Wow.
pop your audition in, and it's just like
Mhm.
I don't feel pressure from other people. I feel pressure from myself because it's like you
Uh-huh.
put my audition in, like we loved your audition. Now we need you to do something even better than that. And I'm
Oh,
like,
wow, yeah.
no problem, no problem. I got you. But yeah, no, it was pretty amazing to hear afterwards. So a lot of it is, this again, everything has been a blessing. I'm grateful for all the wonderful working clients that I've worked with, and I've worked with several other names. I've done stuff for Cheerios.
Nice.
Gatorade was my very first national, which ended up
Mhm.
being, pretty huge. Ryan Garcia was in that spot.
Oh,
Damian
nice.
Lillard was in that spot.
Oh, that was you then. Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
okay, okay.
And it was funny because I never forget. I remember the excitement in booking my first national, but then I
Mhm.
started getting calls from people, and it's like, bro, did I just hear you in that Gatorade? Come on, and that'll never get old. But I get more excited when
Yeah,
kids actually get excited about hearing stuff because those are my real fans, man. Like they
yeah.
it just never gets old for them. We walk in the store and my daughter sees Starry Soda. She's like, Daddy, your voice. But that's just the can of Starry, baby. It's that.
Right, now
But,
your
yes,
voice.
but it's your voice. And so it's always amazing. So yeah, I'm grateful for every single client. But those are some highlights that have definitely stuck out for me.
No, that's awesome, man. Do you get like free Starry Soda for a lifetime?
That would be nice. No, not.
Okay.
But I'm an avid supporter. You know, I figure if nothing else, if they ever see me out and about, I'm definitely all
You
in.
did. Okay, no, that's awesome. And from what I see with you, man, from your posts, man, from knowing you for I think we've known like 2 years now
Yeah, it's
almost.
been a couple of
I
years, man.
mean, yeah, so it's like you to me have reached a very high level of success in voiceover. And I'm wondering like how did you get there? I'm sure a lot of people who are entering voiceover or whatnot, like where did you start? How long have you been doing it and how did you get to this level? What were the steps you had to take?
Oh gosh, you know, it's funny that question is always kind of I don't want to say it's a weird question to me because I don't really look at myself as on being on a level. I really don't. I feel like
Hmm.
I'm a baby in this game, and I call it a game, so to speak, because it really is kind of like a mental game we all play with ourselves. You know, you hear people talk about imposter syndrome and
Hmm.
so many other aspects of voice acting, and these are people who are seasoned and been doing it for years. You know, my very first agency I signed with was in 2013. And that was out here in Atlanta. It was called Houghton Talent. You know, they're still
Okay.
around. I'm still signed with them. I don't get a lot of auditions from them, but you know, when I do, and if it's the right fit, you know, I'll audition for it. But I try to remain in contact and just let them know, you know, I'm still active. But yeah, I signed to my first agency in 2013, and I really, just to backtrack a little bit, you know, before I signed with them, one of the things that I did, and is I don't want to say necessarily embarrassing, but I still have my very first voiceover reel that I produced myself
Okay.
that's on YouTube. But I figure if nothing else, it'll serve as a historical kind of
Yeah.
landmarker for my journey in voice acting.
Hmm.
But yeah, man, it's, you know, I wrote the scripts myself, and you know, I decided to kind of find a little pocket of what I felt like were my strengths with my voice, and I acted it out. So I maybe put about 5 spots on there, and then I sent it out to a few folks, including my mom. I'm like, hey, mom, I really want to do this voice acting thing. So she put me in
Hmm.
contact with a young lady who was actually in Chicago as well. And at this time, I was still in Georgia.
Hmm.
But she knew a few folks, including a producer in Chicago, who used to produce at a studio. I forget what the name of the studio is. I want to say it's either FBC or but anyway, R. Kelly is a huge artist out in Chicago, and he used to record at the studio a lot. And
Hmm.
his name was Donovan, and Donovan actually, um, you know, he heard the little demo I put together because my mother's friend sent it to him, and he reached out to me. He said, "Well, hey, you know, I got wind of your demo. I like what I hear. You know, you sound like you got some natural stuff going on. But if you're serious, I want you to come out to Chicago and you know, read for me. I want to meet you. I want to talk to you and see really what it is you want to do." I'm like, okay, say less.
Hmm.
So I asked my mom for some assistance with the plane ticket, and got that plane ticket. I was out there a couple weeks after that. I
Hmm.
sat down with Donovan, and you know, we hit it off, man. The energy was nice, and he said, "Okay, I'll tell you what. I'm gonna throw you in the booth and let me see what you can do."
Nice.
Oh, you mean like right now? Like, yeah,
Pressure is
man. You
on.
know, so I'm like, all right, come on. I got in there, and yeah, I mean, you know, that's what a lot of this is, man. A lot of it is in the moment. You have to perform. You have to be able to turn on a dime, depending on the
Hmm.
direction. And those things just felt very natural to me. So, you know, I walked out of the booth feeling really good, and he was very impressed by what I did. So he agreed to produce my very first demo. And
Nice.
that's kind of where my beginnings were. You know, he produced my
Hmm.
demo. So I flew back out there maybe about a month later. You know, I worked on doing some reads. He gave me some directions, some things he wanted me to work on. When I flew back out, we recorded the demo. He sent it out to a few folks, including the Houghton Agency and I think the People Store, which are two of the biggest ones out here in Atlanta.
Okay.
And yeah, Houghton hit me back, and Sally was actually one of the agents at Houghton, and she said, "I got this from Donovan. I like what we hear. Have you talked to anybody else?" And I said, "No, not yet." He said, "Don't talk to anybody. Come talk to me today." And I'm like, okay. So I drove my way over there, sat down,
Uh-huh.
signed with him the very same day. And
Nice.
I'm like, hey, I'm off to the races. Well, believe it or not, I wasn't necessarily off to the races, but I
Mhm.
started the race. Uh,
That's
you know,
good
my
right there. Shoot.
yeah, you know, the very first commercial I auditioned for was a Publix commercial, actually. It
Okay.
was a radio spot. And at the time, I didn't have my full-fledged studio anymore because I had moved. And
Okay.
so I kind of had a setup that was in the middle of my living room. And You know, if you know anything about the way sound needs to be right now, the middle of the living room is not the
Yeah.
ideal place to record a voiceover.
Right.
So I ended up going into a studio. A friend of mine had a little studio, and he recorded me for that very first audition, and I ended up booking it. So I'm
Wow.
like, okay, you know, my agent's like, nobody ever books their first one out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready. Yeah, man, I didn't book anything else for like the next 4 years.
Oh, wow.
Because everything else I recorded in my living room. One, I'm sure that had a lot to do with it. But, you know,
Mhm.
I still also needed a lot of training. I was just going off of the raw desire, passion, and what I felt like was talent, you know, which, you know, of course I had, but having talent is not enough. You know, you really have to learn the craft, and you have to understand the nuances of the different styles of reads for promo, for commercial, and things are also changing. You know, the landscape of voiceover is like, hey, we want this conversational thing. And that became kind of like the word of the next, you know, 3 years. And even now it's still, you know, a big part of what we hear a lot when people request auditions. We want it conversational. But I just began to, you know, realize, okay, you know, I'm not booking. What am I doing wrong? Trying to figure that out. So I spent a lot of time doing that, but then life got a hold of me. I had more children, you know, and changed jobs. You know, I got laid off in between. So, you know, you kind of set things down and you decide, okay, well, maybe I need to focus on stability. And, you know, I hadn't gone 10 toes in to voice acting. It was kind of like I was dipping my foot in. And but you know, the truth is it was always calling me, and I just couldn't let it go. My wife knew that I had a passion for it. She would encourage me.
That's awesome.
And then yeah, one day, man, I was just like, you know what, just, and it was close to my birthday. It's funny, I feel like I have all these revelations around my birthday. I don't know what it is. But yeah, it's just like, man, if you want it, you're really gonna have to figure out what it is that you need that you don't have right now, what you need to do different.
Okay.
So the very first thing I did, and it's funny, one of the things that kind of ended up kicking that off, a buddy of mine that I went to college with, also he's an actor, but he also does voice acting as well. And his name is Jason Louder.
Okay.
Now Jason, he and I auditioned for this Nike spot, and it was during the playoffs, right? And I heard it play, and he has such a unique delivery, he has such a unique voice. I knew it was him, and I'm like, oh my God, we're auditioned for that. I auditioned for that. And this is my man right here. And he so I'm like, okay. I picked up the phone. I'm like, bro, listen, I need to know what it is that I need to do to get better. I want this thing. You know what I mean? He's like, say less. He put me in contact with a group called Our Voice on Demand, ran by Aurelia Michaels. And I believe she's married now. So it's Aurelia Holgren Michaels. And she you know, was a huge catalyst, and really not only grounding me in my reads, but helping me to identify with who I was. You know, a lot of what as voice actors we spend time doing is trying to sound like the people that we admire, or trying to sound like the people that we feel like are booking. And that's really not what's going to get us to book. That's there. You can learn technique, you can learn style, but truly embracing who you are in this space is where, in my humble opinion, most of the success for anyone is going to come in. Learning your strong suits, learning the things that you can improve on, and then doubling down on the things that you can improve on, and finding a niche to be able to utilize what you're strong at. Those have been two keys that have helped me along the way, and trying to, I guess, you know, use the word successful. I mean, that's relative to what it is that your aspiration, right? But Aurelia really set up a family-focused type of environment where it was really about encouraging one another to be who you are, not feeling like you have to sound like someone else. And that was when things started to change, man. And I met one of my other coaches, Chris Grant, and he's an amazing coach. Aurelia is an amazing coach. And it was really all about finding out who I was. And once I really leaned into that, I ended up meeting what I like to call my papa of voice acting, with Paul Liberti.
And Paul is awesome.
Yeah, Paul is actually the coach that truly put me in touch with not just being myself, but understanding what that even meant. You know, when you say, okay, just be yourself, right? But what does that even mean? Well, what's a part of your everyday life? You know what I mean? What do you do every day that means the most? For me, it's my family. I'm surrounded by my family all the time, and that's what I love. There's nothing else that means more to me in my life than my family. And you know, they're the anchor in all of my reads. And with me having so many children, and
Yeah.
so many, there's so many different reads I have
Yeah,
with those.
that's true.
I have different relationships with all my kids. My oldest is 21, or about to be 21. My second
Mhm,
oldest is about to be 20. I have a
mhm,
15 that just turned 16-year-old. Then I have a
mhm.
5 and a 7-year-old.
Yeah,
So
that's
with
some
each
different
one of
reads.
them, yeah,
Yeah.
it's just various ways in which they communicate with me. I communicate with them, and so I can always pull from that. And then, of course, my wife. My mom and dad are still alive. God
Mhm,
bless them, and I have relationships with them, and I utilize all of that. And that's what I learned from Paul. Each one of these relationships that you have is who you are. And
mhm.
anchoring in those, you could find those reads when they want the sincere, when they want the funny, the quirky, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Um, but again, it's just figuring out who you are and
Mhm,
what you're comfortable with, and the constant training, man. I mean, I've trained with some great people. Paul was really the first person who I would say I would consider to be a true mentor, because he was very vested in my success. And I met him. I reached out to him because Chris was trained by him.
mhm.
But when I reached out to him, like, I literally searched him down. Like, I did some Magnum PI type stuff,
Yeah,
because I didn't
yeah.
have his information from anywhere, didn't know where to find him. So I Googled and I found an actual email address from him through some source. And I just
Yeah.
sent a cold email. I'm like, listen, my name is Steven Goard. Chris Grant told me a lot about you. I'd love to train
Mhm.
with you. I'd be honored if you give me the opportunity. I mean, this guy has done everything from working with Jim Henson to
Yeah.
stage act. I mean, he's an incredible, incredible person.
Yes,
And
it is.
I just, I credit him with really helping me to tap into who I am as a person with
Mhm.
voice acting, you know.
No, awesome, man. Awesome. And I agree with that. I found out about Paul through Danielle Famble, who's a great voice actress.
Okay.
And then I started taking classes with him. It was the workshop classes, like through Actors Connection.
Yeah.
And then I didn't, well, I think from the class, I knew he did one-on-one and produce demos. But when I talked with you, like, I don't know, it was probably a few months ago, I was like, you know what? Because you were telling me he mentored you and he helped you to
Yeah.
get grounded as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And then I've only coached with him one-on-one once,
Okay.
but I'm going to be coaching with him again. But and I've also been coaching with Ryder, as you mentioned him as
Oh yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And
Ryder's
and,
amazing.
and it's just like, learning these different techniques. You need all of that
Yeah.
in being able. It is not just about reading. And from Paul and Ryder,
Yeah.
just learning. It's not about your voice. It's about connecting. And it's and Tina Marasco. I haven't coached with her yet. I got a session with her like
Oh,
next month.
she's amazing.
But her video program or
Yeah.
her course or her
Yeah.
library,
Yeah.
I've been learning about being grounded, and it's learning so much, man. But I wanted to say, like, yesterday it was funny because last night I was reviewing my voiceover notes and I kept highlighting because I just went through my highlighter and was highlighting about being yourself, and it's about being personal, being specific, and just about being yourself. And I was Paul always says, like, celebrities, they don't focus on being perfect or not, but they focus on just finding themselves in the
Yeah.
script.
Yeah.
And then I was just reviewing, I was like, being yourself, it's not about other people. And then you sit here and talk about that for a few minutes. I'm like, I don't know, it's just really registering with me, man. So
That's
it's
what's
sitting
up,
real
man.
well with me, man. So
Yeah.
I look forward to finding myself more and more in these scripts.
Yeah, and it happens, over time. I mean, it's funny because I think anytime you're on this kind of journey of self, voice acting is life in a big way, because we do the same things in trying to find ourselves, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
the journey of finding yourself in voice acting is very much like the journey of finding yourself in life and what it is that you love to do, and identifying those pieces of who you are,
Mm-hmm.
working on them. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Essentially continuing to put the work into cultivating and nurturing those aspects of who you are so they grow.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what this career is. So, and every one of those people you mentioned, Tina, Ryder, Paul, they've all given me something that I utilize to this day. And like I
Mm-hmm.
said, there's no one trainer who will change your own personal trajectory, but they can all offer you insight into finding yourself. And that's really what it is. But the
Mm-hmm.
true and real intuitive insight comes from internally.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is kind of like a guiding light, so to speak. But
Mm-hmm.
that's where majority of I think our connection is going to always come from is
Mm-hmm.
internally.
No, absolutely, man. What just from what we're talking about, I think this is a good segue into, like, if there's someone who wants to get started in voice acting or someone who's in it and maybe not having much success, what would you say they needed to focus most of their attention on? to become successful, even though successful can be, I guess, subjective.
Yeah, and you know, again, because everyone's journey is a bit different, it's hard to say. You know, you really never know where someone is in their journey. Like for me, I knew I just needed more training. You know,
Hmm.
having talent, and most people believe that, and it's understandable why, because you hear it all the time. Like, hey, I've got a nice voice. I've been told I should do voice acting. I mean, that's the least important piece of voice acting,
Yeah.
but you don't find that out until you
Start
begin the
voice
journey,
acting.
right? You know what I mean? So it's just kind of hard to say exactly what I think steps should be. But I think looking at where you are, one thing I will say that I think has helped me is, and then I try to encourage anyone who does reach out for, um, you know, whether you want to call it advice, guidance, or whatever it may be. Because again, I feel like, you know, you can find it from some very interesting places, but honestly, clarity on where you want to go is important. So in order to have clarity on where you want to go, though, you really have to truly understand the industry. You have to know the different avenues that are available, you know, to become a voice actor, because it's not enough to say, hey, I want to be a voice actor. What does that really mean? You know,
Hmm.
you have documentary, you have promo,
Yeah.
you have
The genres.
in-show narration, you have, you know, just regular commercial, you have industrial, you have audiobooks. Like, what do you truly feel moved by? What do you connect with? And one of the other things that I'm noticing over the years as I'm doing this is like a lot of successful voice actors are very involved or have a love for the areas that they're, you know, auditioning or playing in, so to speak. So for example, anime, you know,
Mhm.
some of the best anime actors, they actively watch it. So they
Yeah, yeah,
understand
they
it.
understand
You know
it.
what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, makes sense.
You watch TV, you understand commercials. If you watch them, you listen to how they do, you know, because one of the things that I received from one of my coaches is that majority of the time, many brands, unless they're pivoting from where they are from a
Mhm.
brand perspective, they generally try to stay within that same, whether it be voice print, voice range, you know, emotive messaging.
Mhm.
Usually in that vein, you want to stick somewhere around there, because they're usually
Okay.
not, you know, unless they've let you know that they're going in a different direction, listen to
Yeah.
what they've done, you know, because 9 times out of 10, that's kind of what they're looking for in some sense. Bring your aspect of what you do to that, but just know branding is about messaging, and their
Mhm.
messaging generally is going to, you know, maintain a certain synergy
Mhm.
across talent, no matter if it's the same talent or different talent. So
Mhm.
that would be it. But yeah, just finding out the areas of the industry that exist, and then
Mhm.
having clarity on where you want to go.
Mhm.
Because once you have that clarity, then you can focus your efforts, your training, you know, your research. I do a lot of research, a lot of research.
Mhm.
And you know, I'm just grateful to even be in a position to have people reach out and say, hey, what can I do? How do I get to where you're at? I mean, like, honestly, where I'm at is just a place of loving what I do.
Mhm.
That's really it. Like my level of, there's so many people who do even more than I do, and I don't view them as above or below. We're
Mhm.
all grateful to be working and on this
Yeah.
journey. So find the gratitude in the journey. Don't worry about how quickly you get to someplace. Just be clear
Mhm.
on where you want to go. And
Mhm.
let your path be the path that you follow, and not try to follow someone else's path and believe that that's your only method of being or measuring success. You know,
Mhm.
um, and I think that's it, because you know, at the end of the day, I think we should all feel very special about who we are, and letting
Yeah.
that shine through in what we do, you know.
No, awesome, man. Well spoken, man. Well spoken. You have been. I don't know if you know, but you're helping me. So we just listening to it. And I hope this helps a whole lot of other people.
Absolutely,
Uh,
man.
and it's just a question. I just got two more that I could think of, but
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, like, you mentioned your successes and you mentioned following your path and not being. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but not being in a rush to get where you need to go, but enjoying the journey.
Yeah.
Um, so like during your journey, you've had successes or whatnot, but anyone who's had successful moments has had moments of failure, maybe a lot of them. So
Without
can you
question.
kind of can you kind of talk about some of the failures that stand out to you and maybe how you overcame them?
You know, and it's funny because I guess I'm a very picky person when it comes to words. Uh,
Okay.
I don't often like to call them failures, you know,
Okay. Yeah.
because honestly, I think the only way you fail is if you don't try.
Okay.
Um, Everything else is just learning. Everything
Hmm.
else is just an opportunity for growth. And if you can
Okay.
walk away from something that may not have worked out how you hoped it would, then you're still winning. You're still grown from the experience. You're still grown from that as a means of being able to see yourself one step closer to where you're trying to be. But in all honesty, like, yeah, I've had some situations where, let me see. Oh gosh, it's just like various, whether it be auditions that I really, really wanted. You really feel like you like, I knocked
You
that one
did
out
it.
the box, man. Oh man, yeah, I'm waiting on that call. Like, yeah, that phone not ringing. Like, what's going on? I didn't book that thing. Or I've had a few. Here's one recently. So I had a Audi commercial that I thought
Okay.
I had booked and got down to it. They had me do some rereads. They said they like it, but the read was a little downtrodden. So, it just, they
Okay.
didn't want it to sound clash with the background music, right? And they wanted some more,
Oh, okay.
a little bit upbeat. So they had me to reread. Cool. I got quote unquote put on the first right of refusal. Then they were saying they were going to book me. And then the time passed, nothing happened, no session. And I was kind of reaching out. And then I ended up hearing the spot on TV. So I'm like,
Oh man.
I guess they decided to go with somebody else. It is what it is. You know what I mean? But that's just the nature of the business. But I'll say that, with that, it's always going to offer an opportunity to look at things in a way that aren't negative. And that's the choice we have. It's either you can take from this something that is positive and you can use it as a means to increase your desire to want to do something. Because I have yet to book my very first, I'm in the process of booking my first car spot. I thought that was going to be, but I am now in the process of booking my very first, car spot. And, I've got Cadillac on my vision board and Mercedes-Benz on my vision board, but Audi would have been cool.
Heck yeah. That's right in that same
Hey,
vein.
but again, it's funny because just like my vision board last year, I wanted to book 10 promo spots. I got to, I want to say September, hadn't booked anything yet. And then I ended up booking promos throughout the rest of the year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, it would be easy for me to look at that and say, hey, I had 10 on here and I haven't booked anything yet.
Yeah.
But I was focused on other stuff. And while being focused on other things, I was still trying to perfect my promo reads. And then the opportunity came across. I booked my very first one, which was, I think that was for Fox Sports, and it was a Rise promo. Now, here's an interesting thing, because there's different ways of doing promo, right? And there are people who will teach you how to have different styles of promo. And you have to take that and learn from that. And then understand the industry, because there's so many different types of ways that promo can be read. What feels comfortable to you? Trying to sound like someone else or finding your voice in the space? Because the thing about it is, people don't know always what they like until they hear it, right?
Yeah,
so
true.
Once you do something that hasn't been done, may not be the run of the mill, but if it's different enough and they vibe and they resonate with it, then hey, now you have an opportunity, and I'm grateful because I've developed some great relationships with ESPN, and they've consistently come back. I mean, but I've had to compete, and I've had them tell me, like, in the session, like, hey, we listened to 200 people and yours stood out. And that means a whole lot.
200 people.
I mean, like, that's a lot of people,
and
you just never know. You just never know. But doing the work, being consistent and staying ready, and being able also in the sessions to turn on a dime, because like I said, sometimes, and another great example of that would be the Mike's Hard Lemonade, although I've mentioned it once for another reason, but this was another one where my read that booked the audition is not what I ended up reading like in the session.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Oh man,
Okay.
listen, when I tell you, I booked it with it was kind of like the friendly, I won't say it was overly friendly, but it was more like the human, like, hey, you know what I'm saying? This is Mike's Hard Lemonade. Let's book.
Yeah.
They wanted the lumberjack to come out. And
Oh, okay.
Lumberjack? Like, y'all didn't even hear me doing lumberjack, but they felt something was in my cadence where I would be able to pull it off, right?
Pull it off. Okay.
They played me what they loved about one of the lumberjack spots that they had, and they're like, this is what we want this one to be like. I had to be ready to pivot. You know what I mean? And although it was a 3-hour spot, and it wasn't because I wasn't getting it right, but there was also moments where for example, the natural way that I pronounce lemonade,
Mhm.
uh, they needed me to say lemonade,
Lemonade. Okay, okay.
but also not say it so hard that I'm leaving a long A on the end. So
Oh yeah.
lemonade. Yeah.
So
They're
you're
like,
you're
they didn't
saying
want lemon. Yeah, they just wanted a lemonade. And they
yeah,
needed to hear the D in the lemonade. And
yeah,
there was so much to it. But again, you have to be ready to pivot at any
yeah,
moment in live session. So I
yeah,
think that's also you develop those muscles from doing the work. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's just like being in the gym, it's muscle memory. And
Mm-hmm.
you're prepared mentally to be able to make those turns based on the creative input and the creative synergy that you and the people in the session have. That's when you come out with something beautiful. And that's really what's most important. It's not about the read before, it's not about the read after. It's like once you get in that session, you have to basically be ready to be creative at
Mm-hmm.
any moment. And I thrive in those moments, man. Like those are
Mm-hmm.
the fun times because it's like, honestly, that creativity, it can't be replicated. Like
Mm-hmm.
it only happens in that moment. That's the
Yeah,
beauty.
yeah.
That's why I love freestyling, man. Freestyle is don't you ask me to. But no, seriously. I mean, it's the creativity, it's the in the moment, it's the thinking that happens naturally that you don't even have to, you just allow it to come out, and whatever beautiful happens is what happens, and that's
Yeah.
where the magic is, man. So
No, that's awesome, man. That's really awesome. If I played Andy Griffith music, you think you can freestyle to that? Um, but yeah, but you talk about you switch, so you don't look at things as a failure. You like to make sure you craft careful with your words, which I
yeah,
think is great. But I mean, if an opportunity doesn't work out, you're not going to sit there and I guess wallow in the mire over it or cry about it, but you're going to keep getting
no.
prepared during that time.
Well, I mean, let's just be real. I'm human, so I
Okay.
have moments where I have to, it's almost like you don't come to these moments of realization and you never go through anything again. But
Hmm.
what you do is you develop a plan of how to deal with those moments, and so
Hmm.
it's the resilience that we have to be able to bounce back that continues to motivate me because it's like I will have moments just like, man, I might have a slight moment of disappointment, but I
Hmm.
do understand that also this is a moment of growth. And so it's a choice. It's a very conscious choice to
Hmm.
not wallow in that moment that you may
Hmm.
have because a moment doesn't make an eternal lifetime. It may
Okay.
seem like it,
Okay.
but normally we're the ones who are making it seem like a lifetime. But
Yeah,
if
you're right.
you just let it be just a moment, there's several other moments throughout a day that you can wallow in. Why choose that particular one? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
And it's
true.
just a practice.
Yeah.
It just takes practice. Once you begin to think like that and train your mind to look for the positive, then it becomes a little bit more second nature. And
Yeah.
not quite so hard. But I'm not gonna sit here and act like there haven't been moments where I haven't experienced disappointment at all, man. I mean,
Yeah, you're a
it
human
happens
being.
to yeah, it happens to everybody.
It's funny. I'm a human being. I know there are many other human beings, but I always think I'm the only one that feels a certain way, and everybody else is like,
No. That's that. I think that's the thing that we all think. In some
Yeah,
respect.
makes
And
sense.
even talking to my daughters, it's like you. The funny thing about I think we're all connected in a very
Mhm,
big way, probably more so than we really even acknowledge because we're so used to seeing ourselves as separate. But you're not alone in what you feel, and take
mhm.
solace in the fact that you actually are probably we're all probably way more common than we think we are with
Yeah.
how we feel in these different situations. Um, and we unconsciously give each other permission to go through these things when we go through them and then we triumph and people see that triumph
Mhm,
a lot of times it looks like overnight, whether it be success
mhm.
or overnight dealing with things or you've moved past it so quickly. No one knows the internal workings of what you're going through, but the
That's
truth
true.
of the matter is we're all built from the same stuff, man.
Mhm.
And at the end of the day, that's the humanity is a part of what connects us. And if we can learn from those opportunities and just continue to kind of practice that resilience and practice that bouncing back, it starts to become a little bit easier over time. Yeah.
No, absolutely. You mentioned overnight success. I thought about this yesterday. You wouldn't consider yourself an overnight success? There was a lot that went into it?
Oh man, no, not at all. And
Okay.
it's funny, yeah. Like I don't even know what that means, but I think I've heard this saying. It's funny. Say it takes years to be an overnight success.
Mhm.
I don't know if that's exactly how it goes, but the sentiment
I
is
know
like
what you're talking about,
it
though.
always looks like that on the outside. No
Mhm.
one really is ever going to know the exact path that you've taken or what has gone into you being where you are at that particular moment. But Nothing about anything I've been through has been overnight at all. Not even a little bit.
And would you say you studied a lot? Like, do you study a lot? Like review notes, review
Yeah,
sessions? I mean,
yeah.
review coaching sessions you had, or just
Oh
you
man,
continually training?
without question, without
Yeah.
question. And so there's two aspects to that, because I think you can overtrain,
Okay.
to the point
Okay.
where it's just like you can overthink.
Mhm.
You can overtrain. I don't think you can ever have too much training, but you can overtrain, if you understand what I mean by that. So
Mhm.
I've trained with lots of different people,
Okay.
and I've had various coaches offer, a tremendous amount of wonderful expertise. Um, and even one of my agents was like, I was telling them, like, I was getting ready to train with someone. He was like, well, you really don't need to do that.
Okay.
You're good where you are for right now. Like,
Okay.
don't mess with your mind, because a lot of times what it'll end up doing, the training is great, but it can also put you in a place, if you've developed some sort of rhythm, in a sense, where you begin to overthink things, or you begin to
Okay.
overanalyze. Now I'm by nature, I'm a very analytical person. So part of my routine, I have a spreadsheet that I keep of stuff I've auditioned for, what I
Oh, wow.
booked, what I haven't
Yeah.
booked. I'll go and find
Mhm.
the actual spot. I think I might have shared that with you before. It's just one of the
Mhm.
ways in which I try to continue to hone the craft, right? And
Okay.
so um I also have what I like to consider kind of my mastermind group. We talked a bit about that.
Oh, yeah.
That's helpful in that, we spend a lot of time in those booths. It's lonely. You don't have a whole lot of feedback. So having
Yeah.
a core group of people that you can trust, that are doing a lot of and understand a lot of what you're going through, can also be a great way to kind of bounce things off of them, and find some sort of, I guess, groundedness in your experiences, right? Because
Mhm.
there's no real true gauge that's going to say whether or not you need more training or not. It's how you feel. And if you
Mhm.
feel that you can improve someplace, then I say seek the training. But overtraining is something you can do as well. And then you're so
Yeah.
much in your head that you're not grounded in the reads, or you're not being yourself anymore. And I
Mhm.
just never want to move away from being who I am. That in moments like that, you'll feel very disconnected from the experience of loving what we do. And that
Yeah.
for me
Makes
is what
sense.
I'm always going to try and maintain, is that love and sense of play. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
man.
No, awesome. Awesome. And speaking of love, you said you really love your family.
Oh yeah.
And I know on social media you talk about the Black family.
Oh yeah.
And over your right shoulder, there's a poster of the Uptown Chronicles. And I know this is very near and dear to you. Can you
Yes,
tell
sir.
us about the Uptown Chronicles
Yes,
and what it's
sir.
all
Yes,
about?
sir. Man, so this is a story that is inspired by my family,
Okay.
believe it or not. With all seven of us being here, and as I said, these epiphanies kind of hit me around my birthday. So like around August of my birthday last year,
Mhm.
I just decided to put my foot down. This creative idea has been bubbling in my head for a while, and I would walk around the house with all the kids always running. There's always energy going on. Somebody's crying or laughing, or we're having fun playing a game and going someplace. And, I love that energy. And, I also love the characters that all of my children, my wife, and I am. So I was like, man, it'd be really super dope to create just a show off or something like this.
Mhm.
But then I was like, one of my goals this year is to book an animated series lead,
Mhm.
or supporting role.
Mhm.
And so it's like, this is a great opportunity. I'm going to create this, and I'm going to create a role for myself that
Mhm.
allows me to showcase my abilities with voice acting and animation.
Mhm.
That's how it started. And then as it began to develop, and I started developing these characters and writing these backgrounds and writing these dynamics about what it was turning into, in my mind, I'm like, the one thing that I always loved was the Cosby Show.
Okay.
And I love the Cosby Show because of what it meant to me as a child, like how I got to see family. It was a middle class family, but they still went through things, and they still dealt with things as best as they could. They came together. It was about the
Mhm.
unity, and just looking at what shows do I love? What do I love? So the Cosby Show, the Boondocks, and Black
Mhm.
Panther were the three things, and I'm like, man, I could just smash
Combine
all
them
of those
together.
together. What would that look like? And
Uh-huh.
that's where the birth of this idea came about. So I'm like,
Okay.
I'm going to take the most exaggerated forms of who we are in our family and combine this idea of these three shows into something that's going to last. For me, you know, I think the thing about the Cosby Show is, one, not just the dynamics of the family, not just the messaging of the show and seeing a Black family, you know, who gave us hope for us being able to do so much more in our lives, but the longevity of the show and what that meant for us as a culture, because it wasn't even just our culture who benefited from that show. It was so many others. It was a universal show. And that's what just like really ignited the spark, man. So I'm like, you know what? Okay. So I start sketching out these ideas. I start writing all of these different, you know, backgrounds for these characters. And I gave them names and I came up with the title. And I'm like, okay, I need some renderings. And so, like, you know, we're in this precipice of AI. So I'm like, let me jump on here and see if I you know, I'll type in some characters and see what it comes up with. You know, I want them to be Afrofuturistic and, you know, they need to look like this. And I gave all these attributes. And so it came up with these initial renderings. And then I'm like, okay, so what's the next step? I don't want these to be the final renderings. I need something original. So then I start going through my Rolodex, right? Well, I've been blessed to be friends and family with so many just super talented creatives. And it's just amazing. And so I'm going through my mental Rolodex, and the first person that jumped out was one of my brothers that I literally grew up with this guy. Now I was the little man, and I was running behind him when I was younger. But he's an illustrator who has Marvel level illustration.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Talent. And so, you know, I woke up at like 2:00 in the morning and I texted him. Like, bro, I have this idea. I need to talk to you. Hit me back as soon as you can. So, man, we talked, and I had to actually go get my car fixed the very next day. So we ended up hopping on the phone. And you know, it's funny. He just told me this the other day. He's like, man, your excitement can be infectious. And I get that, because I'm one of those type of people. Like, if I love something, I will talk like it. You will see it literally exuding out of my pores. And the way that I talk about it is one of those things that makes people feel like, oh man, I want to do that. So anyway, I'm telling him about the idea. I'm explaining it to him. I'm going through detail. I'm like, I have this idea, these characters. This is the antagonist. Here's the heroes. Here's the family. Here's this. This is what's going to happen here. And he's like, man, that sounds dope.
Nice.
I'm all in. So, and he was ready to go. And I knew his art was perfect. So I said, I have these renderings that I had AI come up with, but I want original characters that kind of merge the worlds of the Cosby Show, the Boondocks, and Black Panther. This is where I'm going with this. And so after I explained it to him, I sent him all the renderings and sent him the backgrounds for the characters that I come up with. I sent him the original script and the storyline, and I just let him soak it all in. And man, what he came back to me with was like the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. I said, oh my God, yes, this is it. And so that was really our very first renderings of the Uptown Chronicles, which is the name of the series. But yeah, man, this is, so as of now, what this has really turned into is not just a series about a middle-class Black family in the future, but it's an opportunity for us to see ourselves in the future in a way where not only are we embracing our ancestry, but we're also in a time where things are rapidly changing so fast. And to me, it's like there's so many questions about what is the future with AI going to look like? What is our future going to look like as we evolve into trying to incorporate all of these new versions of technology? And what does a Black family do in a time where technology is so advanced and we have access to everything, with our natural everyday struggles that we'll go through? Because that doesn't change no matter what changes as far as technology. You know, we'll also have to grow through the history of where we come from and then what it is that we're creating as our future by the actions we take now. So for me, I wanted to be able to create a narrative that inspires us to look towards what we can possibly be even greater than we are now. Listen, our contributions as Black creators, as inventors, as explorers has been undeniable in the history of this entire planet. But we have yet to really truly see and understand the depth of our contributions. So now we have an opportunity to create something, man, that's going to have us explore the imagination of what we can really be. And I want to really touch on, you know, the aspects of AI. So I actually said it in the year 2100. So it's the turn of a new century. Think about it like this. You remember the year 1999 before it became 2000, right? And before the clock turned, the entire globe was in I don't even want to say
Wondering
they
what
were
would
all
happen.
panicking, but yeah, but it was
Yeah.
like, what's about to happen?
Yeah.
What's going to, is it going to end? Is it going to, there was just a various amount of perspectives on it. So
Right.
being that I want to have that kind of energy of change be a part of this series, because this is what it's about, then I put it in the year 2100. It's just the turn of the
Okay.
century. So
Yeah.
what does it look like in an urban city of Chicago in the year 2100? Because believe it or not, we're not that far.
Yeah.
We're really not that far. And with the advancement of AI and everything, it's
Mhm.
going to move us even quicker. So what
Yeah.
does that look like? For a
Mhm.
Black family, how can we expand the narrative of what a healthy dynamic in a Black family looks like? And then this being a creative medium of animation, now we can, the sky's the limit for what we can create
Mhm.
in this world, and the messaging that we can create, and the longevity that my hope is that this show lasts. So it
Yeah.
becomes more of a contribution to our culture and what we can envision ourselves being, the potential that we have to be great. And it's at the forefront. We're dealing with the technology. We're dealing with the advancement of our race as humans and as a Black family. But we're also tapping into our ancestry and how that's influenced where we are right now. So yeah,
Mhm.
that's what the show is about, man. And
Yeah. That's awesome.
again, just having my family is my inspiration. The next thing I needed to do once I had the art was to find someone who understands the right. Again, I'm all about playing my position. I'm a
Mhm.
writer as a rapper, but I am not a writer as a movie and TV.
Okay, okay.
I can spit out ideas. I have lots of those, but so I put out to the universe that I wanted to find the right person to connect with so that I
Mhm.
can really tell this story in the way that I was envisioning. And I wanted it to be done in a very specific way. And I met an amazing writer. His name is
Mhm.
Alonge Hawes,
Mhm.
and he's also my co-director in this series. But I met him through a neighbor of mine. So I'm
Okay.
talking about the series with my neighbor. He's like,
Mhm.
I know this guy. He's done a bunch of web TV series that have won awards. Really talented guy, but believe it or not, they were in the service together. He was the sergeant
Okay.
who actually signed him up for the service. He was
Mhm.
like, you should check him out. So he sent me a link to some of his work. I loved his work. It was very much in line with kind of the imagery and the background for what I'm trying to create with this series. So
Yeah.
we met up, and after we met up, I invited him to come through to the studio. We sat down, man. Within 15 minutes, he was like, I am in. I
Oh,
love
nice.
it. I love it, love it, love it. And, the amazing thing about it was he got it. He got it. Like I can
Mhm.
tell just from me being
He understood it. You talking about like everything you were aiming at? Yeah.
he
Mhm.
understood it to a T,
Mhm.
and that for me was exciting. So yeah, those are the first few connections I made. Uh
Mhm.
and we've been making history ever since, man.
Yeah.
It's been a beautiful ride, continues to be a beautiful ride. I'm learning a lot. I'm first time executive producer for something like this. By nature, I'm a
Yeah.
voice actor, but I've always been in positions to bring together teams. I think my strong suit is creating synergy among people,
Mm.
creating and elevating energy in a way where you inspire others to want to do what they love. And that's
Yeah.
I feel like I've been put in a position to do. So everyone from the actors to the sound design guys to my writer, like there's a synergy that's unmatched, and
Yeah.
I'm grateful for that. And I think that'll show through
Yeah.
in what we create, as we begin to kind of journey down this path of getting this entire series green lit. But
No,
yeah,
awesome. So
yeah.
getting a series greenlit. So where are you in the process? Is it just like producing a pilot? Is it
Yeah, well, okay,
like
so we have the entire 8 episodes of the season written
okay,
already.
okay,
And right now we produced a trailer. So I wanted to
okay,
do a little bit of an unconventional approach to this.
okay,
I think initially we were going to try and do the trailer, um, the pilot as a short film.
okay,
Not quite calling it a short film, even though it is going to kind of stand on its own because it's going to be a little bit longer than your regular episodic, time frame. It's going to be about 45 minutes or so.
okay.
With the remaining episodes, they're going to be about 25-30 minutes, just like regular episodic time length. But for this very first installment, I wanted to give people something to understand what this was about. So that's why I created the trailer. So I kind of used my own resources and invested in, doing the trailer to get the concept out. And we're using that as a means to shop this to distributors, investors, but we're still looking to record our pilot
Okay.
to produce our pilot. So right now we're in the beginning stages of that. I'm literally running a crowdfunding event. Feel
Mhm.
free if you see it to go on and spread the word about the crowdfunding event, because this is actually our beginning stages of kind of getting what we need to get started. But you know,
Mhm.
I've had some great talks with some investors who are really interested, even in these beginning stages, man. So it's really
Yeah.
exciting. I mean, I have a feeling we're going to find what we're looking for in this next month,
Yeah.
because we've had a lot of people reach out, interested in being a part of it. They love what they've seen with the trailer that we put out. But,
Mhm.
you know, meanwhile, I'm also trying to find ways to connect with people so they really understand what it is I'm trying to create here. So it's kind of the grassroots crowdfunding and getting
Yeah.
out, you know, shaking hands, kissing babies, and all that good stuff.
Your favorite thing to do. Wait,
Hey,
so how can people support through crowdfunding? How like what I
we
guess I can
we
get the link from you.
yeah, we actually have a crowdfunding event on Indiegogo. If you actually search
Okay.
up the Uptown Chronicles on Indiegogo, I can send you the link out.
Okay.
And yeah, you'll see we've raised almost $600 so far, which has been amazing. It's just a
Mhm.
60-day campaign. You know, whatever we raise will go towards helping to kind of get things started.
Mhm.
You know, I've got a PR company I'm working with, so we'll be doing some PR in the next month as well. And really getting the word out about this and in front of the people who are in a position to help make this thing happen, man. Because
Mhm.
this is content we need. Listen, we're in a time of attention being the real currency, right?
Yeah, you're right.
And you know, for me, if attention is the currency, then what are we consuming as content?
Mhm.
We don't have a lot of shows out here right now that showcase Black families, especially in the animation space, with a dynamic that's about cohesiveness. It's not just about it being a cool animation or about space, but really allows us to envision ourselves in a way that is inspiring. Like at the forefront of technology, that's where we were in Black Panther, but we were
Mhm.
definitely tied to our ancestry. I want to bring these stories to the forefront. I want these to be the things that we have as the narratives that we're consistently creating
Mhm.
now and in the future. So
Mhm.
yeah, man, it's just trying to find the people who understand the vision. And once we do that, it's you know, onward and upward. I mean, I will not stop until this series sees the light of day. So it is what it is.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah, that's
I'm
awesome.
all in. And you know, we have an amazing group of talent, writers, and just collaborators, man. So if nothing else, the journey is the real joy.
No, that's awesome, man. And the last thing I could think to ask you, even though I said I had like 2 questions like 3 hours ago, but the last question I could think to ask you is because you mentioned AI in the
Yeah,
Uptown Chronicles and
yeah,
how the world is changing with it.
yeah.
What is your view on AI in the voiceover industry?
Wow. Well, I mean, I'll say this. You know, I think just I look at AI like I look at Bitcoin. You know,
Mhm.
when Bitcoin first came around, you had people who were scared of it. You had people who embraced it, early adopters, late adopters. You have
Mhm.
people who are still trying to figure out what the heck it is.
Yeah.
That's what AI is going to be, man. And it's you know we've had enough of narratives early on in some of our films and shows created to understand what AI capabilities are. So I think at this
Mhm.
point, it's really just not just understanding the landscape, but trying to embrace change in a
Mhm.
way where we're utilizing it for its best purposes and trying to do our best to mitigate any issues that may arise from the misuse of something that, you know, in my opinion, there'll always be positive and negative
Yep.
aspects to just about everything that exists, right? So
Mhm.
I'm looking more at where can we leverage this for positivity, you know, which is why, you know, even in the initial stages, being again that I'm a graphic designer, but I'm not an illustrator. So trying to get my ideas out, AI helped me to be able to
Yeah.
see and visualize what it was that I wanted in a way where then I can fine tune it. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So there's
Mhm.
various ways that we can embrace it. You know, I've even had one agency come to me to ask me about an AI buyout for my voice. And I think we're all going to kind of come to that kind of uh, precipice, so to speak, you know, sooner or later as
Mhm.
the industry evolves, because this is where we are.
Yeah.
The time where AI is highly involved in many of the medical, educational,
Yeah.
institutional aspects of our everyday life, right? So what do? You
Mhm.
run away from it, or do you embrace it, or do you learn about it so that you can leverage it, so that we can all kind of come to a place where the regulations will be set based on how we envision not just the utilization, but how we begin to use it now,
Mhm.
and how we see things either go sideways or move forward, that we continue to refine that.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, I embrace it for what it is. I
Mhm.
accept it for what it is. I'm not afraid of it, and I think there's room for growth. I've
Mhm.
seen a lot of positive things done with it, and I've also heard of some negative things that have been done with it. So
Mhm.
with that being said, you know, for me, I just try to educate myself, and be prepared. I think that's about all we can do.
Hmm.
Be prepared in voice acting and in life. For voice acting, it's one of those things that's kind of inevitable. Be prepared to have those conversations about a buyout. They don't know what it
Hmm.
means. So, for example, while they're still trying to figure these things out, what does it mean for somebody to want to buy out my voice with AI? I
Yeah,
mean,
what does it mean?
what's not enough? What's too much? And all of those things are being determined literally right now while they're advocating for protections around the use of AI, because at the end of the day, like I said, it can be used for things that are not above board just as much
Yeah,
as it can be used for things that are in our best interest. So,
yeah,
just trying to stay abreast of the changes, embrace it as best as we can, and be ready to pivot at any moment.
yeah. No, absolutely, man. Absolutely. No, I enjoy your perspective. I enjoy your perspective on a lot of what we talked about.
Thank you, man.
Enjoyed this conversation, man.
I did too. Well, listen, no,
Yeah,
you're my guy,
I
Ferlon,
appreciate it, man.
and I'm grateful to
Likewise.
have the opportunity to come on and talk with you about this stuff. But we can
Mhm.
talk. We're talkers, man. We can do this all
Yeah, no, likewise.
day.
No, man, you're my guy too, man. So glad, man, you reached, because it's funny because I looked at my email to check when we first got in contact, and it was October
Yeah,
2022. So I'm glad you reached out, man. You changed my life, and also, man, it's good to have a good friend, man. So
man, I appreciate it,
absolutely.
brother. Appreciate you.
Well, yeah, likewise. Anything you like to add that I didn't ask, if you want people to know that maybe how they can reach out to you if they'd
Oh
like
yeah.
to book you for a job or something like that?
Hey, always do a little shameless plug, no
Oh
problem.
yeah.
Listen, I would love your support. If you're watching this, just go to theuptownchronicles.com. This is the show which we are currently looking to get picked up by any distributor, any investor who's interested in a show that is going to push the narrative of positive unity in Black families and technology and culture, while embracing the changes that we're going through. Man, this is going to be one for the books. Also, as a voice actor, you can find me, my first last name, Steven with a V dot. I'm giving my email address, StevenGoard.com.
Mhm.
My last name is Goard. But again, I'm grateful for this community, man. I'm grateful for the opportunity to connect. So if you, for any reason, want to reach out, I'm a pretty, Ferlon will tell you, I'm an open book, man. So I'm not hard to find,
Absolutely.
not hard to reach.
No, I'm really an awesome guy. Steven is. He's an awesome dude. So yeah, man. Shoot, I appreciate it, man.
No problem, man. I appreciate you. And listen, keep doing what you're doing, brother. I'm proud of you, man. And
Oh, thank you, man.
you got a lot of good creative things going on, brother. So much success
Appreciate it, man.
in you.
All right, thanks so much, man. And this has been the second episode of the Keeping It Simple with Ferlon podcast, interview edition, with the best voice actor in the world,
Oh God.
Steven Goard.
Thank you, brother. I'll talk to you
You're
soon.
welcome.